All right, I'm going alive. I'm a few minutes early, but yeah, I'm a few minutes early. But I want to talk about um recording music and DAWs and software and things like that. Um, since that's the hot topic, I think one of the hot topics was um recording studios are closing, and I think I don't think when I say recording studios, I think more of it's shifting from a lot of recording studios are starting to shift from the need to get an actual recording studio to shifting into where people are able to do this at home, and that's becoming more popular. I think there's still going to be people that still going to prefer to want to go to a traditional recording studio because they just like the environment. I think recording studios are cool because even the traditional commercial studios, I think they're going to be cool because it's such a nice environment to walk into a commercial studio. There's usually quite a few staff there. You have some engineers, some assistant engineers. They usually have some really nice gear, um, and so forth. They usually have going to have a maintenance staff in case something breaks, they can fix it. Things like that you just won't usually get if someone's trying to do this at home. Usually, if someone have a piece of gear at home, they can't do like Blackbird where they can walk to one of their storage rooms and pull out the same piece of gear and just replace it. Most people can't. I know, like if I get one of my preamps break, I don't have a replacement for it. So, but I think also a lot of people that are looking at the commercial studios, the ones that think is needed, is probably they usually probably are doing a certain genre style of music. So, like if they're doing rock and roll or country or um, jazz or anything like that, yes, they're gonna probably feel more comfortable going to a commercial studio. But most people that are doing more of the hip hop, electronic, um, EDM styles of music and things like that, then a commercial studio is just an option. Most people are going to want to do this at home if you know what you're doing and you're very good at doing your own music and recording your stuff. Then yes, you're probably going to want to do it. You're going to most likely more than likely want to do it at home because you know what you're doing. I'm that type of person. I just rather do it at home because I like the comforts of being able to come up here, work up here anytime I want. I don't need to worry about trying to get buzzed in and trying to book it and waiting to have some time to get in the studio. I can just come up here anytime I want. I prefer that out of all of it. Even if I didn't know what I was doing, I would prefer it's I might have an idea at 4 o'clock in the morning. You're not getting to some commercial studio unless you were booked for it. Other than that, so most people say, well, if I got this idea, 4 o'clock in the morning, I can just run to my computer and lay down my idea. I think that's really becoming really popular. So I am doing my Sunday live stream. I am probably not going to be on here very long today unless it gets really interesting. Um, I always appreciate everyone that tunes in. Here's another interesting topic that I saw, and this was coming from a couple of other YouTubers' channels, and they were talking about Pro Tools and how Pro Tools just isn't it anymore. And I'm like this. I think Pro Tools, from my personal opinion, I think Pro Tools is an excellent program if you're doing what you're doing and using Pro Tools for what you want to use Pro Tools for. In other words, if you want to use programs for, you're going to still record a band, you're gonna record a band and you want to like the workflow of Pro Tools. Well, Pro Tools is not going to ever stop working for that. It's designed to do things like that. I think that the reason why a lot of people are using other DAWs such as Studio One, Ableton Live, FL Studio, and so forth, because those programs allow them to do exactly what they need to do as far as the style of music that they're working in. Like if I'm working in Ableton Live, and Ableton Live got all the drums and sounds and keyboard synths and virtual instruments, and I can mix in it, I can use plugins in it, I can do everything in Ableton Live, then why would I need to use Pro Tools? I wouldn't. But anyhow, I got some comment. I can't see what my glasses. Hey, what's going on, DL? How's it going? I'm good. It's now 2025. Hope you had a I hope you had a really good New Year's. It's going to be interesting. Forgive my chair for it makes this weird. I'm gonna get some more of these. I'm going to Office Depot and I'm gonna get some more chairs. But I'm just talking about recording and gear and the future of music and software and just stuff that we normally talk about. And I was watching some videos where Bolo, the producer, he just got finished making a video about how, talking about, well, Pro Tools isn't the industry standard. And Pro Tools is for the older guys and stuff like that. I'm like this. I think people would say that for people like me, that Cakewalk would be for older guys. I'm a heavy Cakewalk user. And I look at it like this: as long as Cakewalk works, it's the same thing with Pro Tools. As long as it works and people like that workflow, there's nothing wrong with using it. I just think that a lot of people that are getting into recording are going to like the DAWs that they choose. I think Ableton Live or FL Studio or Reason Studio or any of these other programs are very, very capable programs. It's the reason why I decided to get those other DAWs, just to see how their workflow. And I can see why people like a lot of these other workflow, these other DAWs. I can see why people like them, because it's no different than if you have someone. Can you imagine driving where there was just nothing but Cadillac CTSs? You had zero other options. The Cadillac CTS would get very boring really, really fast. This is, so it's the reason why you have Lincoln and you have Camaros and you have Mustangs and you have Mercedes and you have BMWs. They're all cars and SUVs or whatever. They just some of them look different and they offer different amenities, but they all do the same thing: get you from A to B. So that's the same thing with DAWs. So would you say I'm interested in that production video that you're going to do? Oh, will it be screen captured? Yes, I'm going to do it through, like anything else. I use OBS Studio software when I'm doing, like when I'm doing, like, let's say I'm demonstrating a DAW. I'm going to use, you'll be able to see it. So, and you'll definitely be able to hear it. So that way I'm going to, I will show people how my approach, like, for example, I don't know if you watched the video, you probably did, where I was with the Christmas and the music track that you hear. Her name was Wanda Barnett. She was singing "Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas," that track. Well, I did that track. I'm the one that I'm playing everything. I'm playing the bass, I'm playing the keys, I'm doing the drums. I recorded it, I mix it. So yeah, I'm going to show you how I do my song, just like I did with the a different taste stuff. I did all the music because I'm a musician first, more than anything. I've been a musician more than I've been a studio engineer. I've been playing, I've been playing keyboards for 40 years. Actually, longer than that, really. Wow. Oh, it's scary. I probably been playing keyboards than some people. 12, 22. 43 years. Yeah, I am not a spring chicken. So I've been playing keyboards for 43 years. So I'm a musician first. But I actually got a taste to start doing multi-track recording in probably 86. 86. I was just, I don't know, woman, she had some keyboards and she had a 4-track recorder and all that. And it was my first experience in multi-tracking, started in 86. So, but I was talking about DAWs and things like that. And I think with Logic Pro, Reaper, Cubase, Ableton Live, FL Studio, and people are able to record, edit, mix, and so forth with those DAWs, use third-party plugins. Pro Tools is, in my opinion, Pro Tools has never been an industry standard. You know, industry standard is like one of the things that it's like, no, because it's another way I can say is this. It's no different than it's like when you hear analog versus digital, which is really what we're really listening to in digital. And when we're dealing with digital, is digital itself actually does not make music or sound or anything. Digital is something that the computer uses to do what it needs to do inside of a computer in simplest terms. So if I'm talking through this microphone, which is going through this little mixer, USB mixer, which is now going into the computer. The same thing with the camera that's capturing me. Well, it's all being converted into digital, which is binary. So the computer, it doesn't see image, it sees binary codes of ones and zeros. But how it converts and how well it converts is the difference. For example, I have a external webcam sitting on top of my PC right now. It's a Microsoft webcam, and but it does have a built-in camera at the top. It's an all-in-one computer. I have tape over it, but it has a built-in camera. If I go from the built-in camera to this external one that I bought, the image quality doesn't look as good because the converting of it doesn't look as good. That's why I use the external webcam. Then I have a little light over here just to give it a little bit better light to make the picture look a little bit clear. This is why lighting is important when it comes to film and photography and everything else, lighting. But it's one of those things that it's how it's converted. So that's what we're hearing and seeing is the conversion. So this is the reason why converters, when they first started making AD to DA converters, they in the late 90s coming to 2000s, they weren't very good. They didn't have very good converter chips in them. But as converters got better, and better, and they can capture the sampling rate of audio, the sampling it, to convert it into digital, it got better and it started sounding more realistic and better quality. And this is the reason why. And then the computers started going from 32-bit systems to 64-bit systems. This is the reason why the music and everything sounds so much better. So you're actually listening to the quality of your converters when it comes to analog versus digital versus analog. And if whatever the case, the same thing if I play sounds from my synthesizers over here, they have AD to DA converters in there. So that if they sample a sound like a piano sound, well, a grand piano sound itself from an actual real grand piano, well, we know that a keyboard doesn't have strings in it. It doesn't have hammers and everything to strike the string to make the piano sound and the wood and all that. So they record it and they sample the sound of an actual grand piano, and they put it on a hard drive inside of a keyboard, or and so it's sampled. And so when I play the keyboard, the output signal coming out of the keyboard is just an AD to DA converting sound of an amp sampled of a key of a grand piano. So that's what we're listening to. We're listening to that. So that's the argument of analog versus digital. You're just how well your system can convert, and the more powerful your PC or Mac, the better it will sound for the converters to work. If that makes sense. A DSC got another. Say, I think it was sold to me as having an ability to be taken into any studio and having your Pro Tools files working in the studio. I have an issue bringing Cakewalk broadcast session into studio. Well, you remember Bolo and a couple of other there's a few other channels that talk about why Pro Tools became the norm, because you remember Pro Tools one that doesn't use VST formatted gear. It uses an AAX style format of software, including your it's like what's the best way I can say it? Pro Tools, especially MIDI files or whatever, even if you're using a PC or Mac, this is the reason why PC and Mac have a whole different download of software because of the way stuff is programmed. So you can't take there are files that are done in Studio One or whatever the case that will not work in Cakewalk. They have totally different formats. Every DAW have its own type of formatting. So this is why Cakewalk or whatever, when you go to, because all these studios started adapting Pro Tools as their DAW of choice, of standard. And if you do something in Cakewalk or Studio One or whatever, it's not going to work. So this is the reason why I was a big firm believer in having multiple DAWs, just in case you went, like if you came to my studio and you had Cakewalk files, well, guess what? I got Cakewalk. You can load it up and it'll work. If I only had Pro Tools, it wouldn't work unless you brought me WAV files, because every studio can use WAV files to upload, but not, whatever case. This is the reason why I got Cakewalk and Cubase and Studio One, Harrison Mix Bus and Mixcraft and all the other DAWs, simply for that very reason. Because the converter itself is still going to convert no matter what DAW you're working in. So anyhow, well, welcome Matty Two Hats and welcome Victor. Hope y'all had a happy New Year's. People do what they do on New Year's Eve. I just chilled because I don't like getting out and on New Year's Day or New Year's, when it turns into New Year's, because people drink and drive and don't, to me, I think it's careless. I think it's careless when someone drinks and drives, because they're not thinking about the other people on the road. So, but anyhow, welcome Main 257. So, like I said, I'm just doing my Sunday live stream. So like I said, I was talking about software and DAWs and all that. And I want to welcome everyone. Probably not going to be on here very long, like I said, unless it gets very interesting or get some very interesting. We start getting to some really interesting stuff. But like I said, and I think people, they were talking about, also wrote the future of music in the industry. I think along with AI growing and the technology and everything else, I think it's going to be kind of inevitable where the old school traditional recording system is going to become a niche thing. And I think it's going to be to a point where everyone's going to start doing more virtual in the box. I just see it that way. I could be wrong. It could revamp back to where you're playing bands and where you have a band where there's a drum set, an actual bass guitar, a guitar, and singers and all that, maybe horns or whatever, maybe. But I don't really, with the capabilities of synthesizers and software and virtual instruments and stuff like that, I just don't see it. I really don't. I don't think I don't think that it's going to ever go back to the old way, because you can do so much more with modern technology today. It's the same thing with DAWs. There are always going to be some people that's going to want to, use still an analog console and record on 2-inch tape and use outboard gear, and they're going to record the band. We were recording like that for years, but I don't see it going back that way. I think it's the synthesizer, like my Roland Phantom, as an example, can just do way too much stuff. That it's just not going to. I don't see myself ever wanting to do the old way as much. So let me see. Matthew said good, going good. I gotta wait. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we saw that. I don't know the details, because there was also the thing that happened in Vegas, and I just um it's just such a, whenever these attacks, I don't care if it's a attack, like the New Orleans attack, or a school shooting, or a mall shooting, or even going back to the 90s where Timothy McVeigh and Terry Nichols blew up the federal building, or even going back to the 60s where Charles Whitman climbed up on that tower and just started shooting people at lunchtime, on at the University of Texas. This happened in August 1st, 1966. People are always saying, they always want to know how, whatever the case. It's just, attacks are unpredictable. That's why attacks work, because they're unpredictable. And then they'll find after the fact, they'll say, oh yeah, there was videos or whatever. Just, if they knew that, they would try to stop it. I just, they'll always want to sit there and say, yeah, there were indicators. No, then, I don't know. I don't want, all I can say is, when you're out and about, just be real cautious, always be alert of your surroundings. We had this thing in the Army come out, stay alert, stay alive. Always be, I'm always watching the traffic. I'm always looking at what people are doing. I always look who's walking through the door of a restaurant, what they're wearing. If it's abnormal, like if a person walks in there with a trench coat and it's 95 degrees, I'm looking at that person. That's like, that person has to be hot unless they're up to something. That's just me. My Army training always keeps me cautious. So, but it's getting back to the music. I think from what I'm seeing, it's already 2025. It's just that what we can do today, that's going to make, it's just going to be the standard. That's all I can say about it. Just, what we can do. So you're saying, how do I like the warm audio tone beast? I like it a lot. To me, if you ever looked at an actual API preamp and the cost of it, and then you look at that tone beast, you're going to get the exact same high quality sound from that tone beast. It's so good. It's what boosted Warm Audio as a company altogether, because he started making tone beast preamps and they were so good, he started making millions of dollars just from that allowed him to start doing other warm audio products. But it's really, really good. Well worth the investment. Incredible sounding preamp, and that's all I can say. If you think about getting one, definitely get one. I got one. I'm going to get another one. So let me see. What is the performance and sound difference between hardware and software versions of the same plugin? Is it big enough difference to stop using plugins? I would say And this is my personal opinion. If I was going to buy, or if I was going to compare plugins to, if I'm going to software, I think they've gotten EQs and reverbs and delays down when it comes to plugins. Where they're not, where they're not, where plugins still just aren't matching is compressors and preamps and things like that. Can you use a compressor preamp, a compressor or a preamp plugin? You can, but it's the reason why I have more compressors than anything when it comes to. I got way more compressors than I do EQs. That's the only way I can say it. I would say if you were going to use or something that you wanted to get a really good sound, definitely invest in at least some good definitely invest in hardware compressors and preamps. You may not necessarily ever have to get the EQs or reverbs or delays, but that's my take on it. But also, I'll say this too. When it comes to hardware versus just in the box, if I record a song just in the box, it can sound good. But when I record something and come to the console and use the outboard gear, to me, it has this richer, fuller sound to it. Is it really super noticeable? Not super, super. It's not like it's blatantly obvious, but if I do the same song, which is that's probably a good idea to create a song and just do it in the box and then record a song and then do it to the console and let y'all hear the difference. I gotta remember to do that. And you be the opinion, but honestly, just from my experience, if I record a song and go through the console and use the outboard gear, it just sounds thicker and richer and more fuller. In the box sounds a little bit more thinner. And I can still apply all the same principles, setting up auxiliary buses, doing the same thing I would do if I was doing it on the reels. But I've done it, and it didn't sound quite as full, if that makes sense. So I got some more comments popping in. Let me see. The WA12 is, well, I would say like the tone beat with the WA12. Like I said, I've only owned the tone beats, but that's basically where Warm Audio shines, is their preamps more than anything else. Other people think their compressors and other gear is controversial as far as quality, but personally, I don't think so. I think some people are just nitpicking when it comes to Warm Audio gear, or that's any company that makes gear. I think a lot of people are just nitpicking because they were so used to, the high end name gear. Like they were still used to the Pultex and the Universal Audio and so forth. And so people have made it in mind. It's psychology, it's psychological more than anything else. So Victor saying hardware is better, but how many people have the ability or good enough sound to hear that quality? And like I said, I'll say this on the hardware. I'll put it like this, I definitely would say where hardware is going to shine. If you had to record a band, your traditional drummer, bass guitar, guitars, actual real guitars, and you're going to have to mic up like a Hammond B3 organ or an actual grand piano where you're going to use mics and preamps. And you're going to go and run it through the console and use outboard gear. Yes, for sure. It's not a huge difference when you're using like virtual instruments, because the virtual instruments already sound good in the heart already on the computer or are coming from a synthesizer or whatever. The sounds are already been finessed to sound like they sound coming from that. So all you got to do is just multi-track into your DAW. So it really depends. But hardware to me, it's the reason why hardware for the most part is always going to give somewhat of an edge is because it has actual physical electronics versus a computer software. We call it C++. It's just they're emulating what the hardware would do. They're trying to emulate. It's virtual. It's not actually real. It's almost like manipulating to make you think that it sounds real, but it's not. And the edge, for example, my Avalon preamps, those gray ones, because when you run through those Avalons, you're running through an actual real transformer. You're running through an actual tube circuit, high-end op amps. You're running through an output transformer. And all those electronics is giving it character, a warmth. There's harmonics there. There's character there. And so forth. Even a lot of people say that Avalons are pretty clean, but it still has this rich, thick, warm sound to it. So that's the reason why I have a lot of gear like I got now, because I know even when I'm running through this channel, there's op amps and capacitors and diodes and components that's affecting how the sonics of it. It's the reason why I prefer to do it this way. So let me see. Someone says, "Oh, Matthew, yeah, I agree. Hardware preamps and compressors still have the extra depth compared to plug." I'm using it, and I think I can definitely get by with plugins on EQs. And I can definitely get by. I think where the plugins they've gotten it good when it comes to plugins are reverbs and delays. You absolutely do not need to use actual reverb and delay real gear. But a lot of the other gear, it's just the character to it. So, if you really if you're using a bass sound or your key sounds and you need some compressors, I would definitely recommend it going through compressors and actual real compressors, actual real. And I think another thing I would say about this too is, like, I got a pair of these are Lisa's 3630s. They're in the compressor up there. They're in the other rack. They're Lisa's 3630 compressors. And these are actual real compressors, right? I've noticed even if I run my signals through those compressors, they tend to just give it more warmth than I'm using, like, let's say a Crystal Algae Waves CLA 1176 compressor through Waves. And then I use the actual Lisa's 3630s in the rack. They sound better. They just do. That's all I can say about that. So I won't beat a dead horse with that. But okay. Oh, Zion. Okay, welcome, Zion. If I'm pronouncing that correctly, he's saying, I feel home studios are becoming more popular versus big studios. That's what I was actually talking about earlier. I think recording studios are shifting from the commercial setting to the home recording studio, because it's not. Here's the thing about what gives a commercial studio an edge. They're still going to give an edge as far as top of the line quality of recording, because a commercial studio, when they build them, they're built to recording studio specs. They're usually rooms within rooms, so they cover noise isolation, so you're not getting a good, well-built commercial studio. An ambulance can be driving by, you won't hear it. They're rooms within rooms. They they're wired properly. They have the proper grounding. The acoustics are addressed. The fusion and everything else. So they're super ideal for capturing recording. But there's a big old but. It's like, but there's a big but, like what's her, Nicki Minaj's butt? There's a big old butt like that, right? But it's definitely going to be ideal if I was going to record an orchestra, a band, anything that's dealing with acoustic instruments. But if I am recording virtual instruments, I'm doing some EDM, electronic digital music track, I'm doing trap music, hip hop, I'm doing K-pop music or whatever, and I'm using virtual instruments. I don't need those acoustics of the room because I don't have to mic those instruments. They're already on the hard drive. So I don't have to worry about trying to get mic placement and what type of condenser mic, if I'm going to use a FET or I'm going to use a tube microphone. I don't have to worry about none of that with those instruments. Even if I have a virtual drum set, like it could be a Pearl or a DW drum set, but if it's a drum kit that's already in a virtual instrument plugin, and I'm just going to use those drums, they sound like real drums, and it's already, and I'm just going to sequence and program those drums. I don't have to worry about miking using overhead mics and room mics and all that, and top and bottom mics and a kick mic on the end and maybe a FET 47 on the outside of the kick or whatever. I don't have to worry about that because it's already captured the sound of those drums. All I got to do is sequence them and then mix them right. So that's the reason why people are able to get high quality sounds at home. Like if I use my MPC Renaissance here, well, all the drum sounds are already in the software. I can just mix it and record it. So I don't need those rooms. And that's the reason why the shift is becoming really, really popular to do this at home. If you were going to record a band or orchestra, you need the acoustics of those live rooms with tall ceilings and so forth. You needed that, but not when it comes to, it depends on a lot of modern music. You don't need that. I think I got a lot of comments popping in. So let me see. So Dia said, what plugins do you like to use to shape, change, or create your sound? Do you like using multi-effects units? Is there anything beyond reverb, delay? Of course, I use, like I said, when it comes to my favorite sets of plugins are IK Multimedia, the T-Rex plugins. I like Acoustica Audio plugins. I use some Waves plugins. I do have Nomad Factory, a few of those, and plugins like that. But I use IK Multimedia's plugins the most. So those are, and then I use some Waves. I was using Slate, but I don't use Slate enough. So I'm probably going to cancel that Slate subscription that I have. So those are what I'm using. I have to more or less show an example of how I'm doing it more than anything else, more than just saying what I use, actually show you what I'm using and how I'm using it. Victor says, it is safe to say that back in the 70s and 80s and 90s, quality audio was required because you had the world-class music. Today, not so much. And like I said, that to me is opinionated. You got to remember, it's opinionated because, like, for example, I like K-pop music as an example. I like K-pop music. That's music still being made today. All you got to do, and you may not like K-pop music. You may not like it. I like it. I like K-pop music. It's, to me, it sounds really good. And these are people making music right now. But it also depends on the genre of music that you like. I like a big wide genre of music. I listen to a lot of, for example, maybe y'all knew this, maybe y'all didn't know. Y'all probably seen some of the Puerto Rican flags running because my father's Puerto Rican, but my mom, my my mother's side, we're black or African American, what do you want to call it? On my father's side, he's Puerto Rican, but even though Puerto Rican is not a race, it's a nationality. So I listen to a lot of Latino music as well, but I'm not just listening to salsa and merengue and all that either. I listen to a lot of, like one of my favorite Latino artists is Luis Miguel. And he's actually Puerto Rican, but they moved to Mexico, and he didn't adapt to a Mexican culture. So a lot of Puerto Ricans make fun of Luis Miguel because they say he's now, oh, you're Puerto Rican, but now you're Mexican, But anyhow, I listen to a lot of Luis Miguel as an example. So I listen to a big genre of music. So it really depends on the genre of music, because there are, like, for example, the Latino music is really, really popular, and there's over 28 different Latino countries. So, and the same thing I like a lot of Indian pop music, even though I can't understand what they're saying, but the music be jamming. And there's a lot of, music come from overseas that sounds really good. So it's all genre dependent, so really, but I was getting back to the Puerto Rican music. I like salsa merengue, which is older, but a lot of young Puerto Ricans don't like, they listen to reggaeton. You hear a lot of reggaeton, and I'm not into reggaeton. I just don't like it. Like Daddy Yankee, he's big time reggaeton. That's not for me. So let me see. So what else did I miss? Because I got a lot. Let me see. Oh, says Matthew says, even if you get a master or STEM master through analog, it does add some. Yeah, like I said, I'm not going to disagree with that. I like analog. To me, analog just has this character to it. Diaz asked me, who were your favorite producers in the past and in current, like Jimmy Jam, Terry Lewis? Yeah, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, especially when they were doing a lot of producing for like Midnight Star, Janet Jackson, Sounds of Blackness, Optimistic, and stuff like that. Jimmy Jam, they were doing some stuff, but I think a lot of people ran to Babyface. I just got bored with over time with Babyface, because Babyface, you would knew Babyface. It's like he was stuck on the same FM electronic piano sound that he was using a majority of, like when he was doing Tevin Campbell, Tony Braxton, you name it. He always had that same EP sound, and I got bored with it. It's and then the chord arrangements that Babyface was using, it kind of got burnt out on it. It's like, which I'm going to talk about in music production when I start doing music production, which I think is a problem with a lot of modern music today, is music production. So and music arrangement and all that, which it's going to be a very interesting video when I put that out. But I would say, yeah, definitely I liked it more Teddy Riley. I liked it Chucky Booker when he was doing a lot of production. I like Dallas Austin's productions. And just a lot of other, so back in the day, those kind of producers. So, and there's a lot of them. So, but the 90s is probably my favorite era of music, is the 90s. I love the 80s. Well, I take it about the 80s as well. 80s and 90s probably is my favorite genre style of music. So, so we got some more. Yeah, let me see some more. These things are popping up fast and I can read them. Okay. Vigilante, welcome, Vigilante. Okay, I didn't see you popping them in the face. Okay. Yeah, Valhalla's. I see those all the time. And then obviously, I heard that Alesis 3630 isn't good, even though they are cheap. And Daft Punk famously used them. Trust me, they're real good. That's why I got. I'll talk about. Let me talk about the 3630s right quick. Some people don't like them because it's the same thing with people that try to say Avalon 737s aren't good preamps, right? And we know that's a lie. We know that's a myth. It's the same thing with anything else, because you got some of these guys that were sitting there saying at least his 3630s were cheap, and they are cheap to purchase. But you got to remember, let's take 1176 and your ratio. On 1176, you got 4-1, 8-1, 16-1, 20-1, and all buttons in, right? Those are your ratio settings. You can go 4-1, 8-1, whatever. I don't always need to go 4 or 8-1. Sometimes I only need to go 3-1 or 5-1. You're not getting 5-1 ratio on 1176. You're just not. Sometimes you have to finesse your ratio to get the compressor to sound like that's to do what you need to do. The Alesis 3630 can do that. 1176 cannot. So 1176 isn't always a great option because everyone had 1176 in their studio to have 1176. Let me go get one because you're limited with 1176. Same thing with the LA2As. What do you got on the LA2A other than peak reduction and gain makeup? Other than that, it's an optocell type of compressor. You don't have very many options. It's going to do what it's going to do to the sound. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you need more control. Sometimes I need to get 3-1 compression, and I need to have this many microseconds of attack. I need to really dial it in. And that's the reason why you want to use compressors like a 3630. You don't always need to be super aggressive sometimes or super fast or whatever. So that's the reason why I say that. Moving on. Pulse Audio, great EQs in my opinion. Yeah, Pulse, another great company. Or Pulsar Audio. Yeah, Pulsar. Yeah, I know what you meant. And then Vigilante says, what about live drum bass bands that are probably the only type of artists that will still need it? Yeah, that's what I said that earlier. If you are, because there's still people that have the live band, they still make music that way. So ideally, like I would definitely recommend they go to a commercial studio for the acoustics, because part of the sound is the drum room. Part of the sound is how they're capturing the drums, and in that live room, and they got the when you and how they are going to mic the drums is part of the sound, and then running it through a Neve or an SSL or an API console and outboard gear. Excuse me. It's like listening to when you listen to all the rock bands from the 70s, they like Def Leppard, Led Zeppelin, Motley Crue, Guns N' Roses or whatever, all these bands, AC/DC, Metallica, whatever the case, that was automatically, that it worked. That gave you the best sound for bands. I would not stop that if you're going to still have a band record that way. I would definitely not stop doing that, because that gave you the best results. But for EDM music or electronic music or hip hop or whatever, no, it ain't even necessary. You can do everything through my MPC Renaissance. I can do a complete hip hop album on my MPC Renaissance. You sure can. So because in hip hop it's about the beat more than anything else. Beating the lyrics. Well, and I guess the samples that you're going to use. Let me see what else Vigilante you say. Even though some commercial studios are using DIs and amp sims for guitars, which defeats the purpose. Yeah, I would rather just mic up a real guitar cabinet or a real bass cabinet. I just would rather hook up a real rig. That's just me, but people do it. So, and then let me see. Maddie says I record all my guitars and vocals at home and get a live drummer to play in different studio. and just send the files. You can do that if it would work. I mean, it works. So not gonna knock that. Now, Vigilante, you're asking, has anyone used the Behringer 1273s? No, I've told I don't have any of the Behringer. I want to try that Behringer 369, which is basically a Neve 33609, 33609 compressor, the Neve one. I've heard great results about the quality of that compressor. The only thing that I've heard, which doesn't surprise me about Behringer, is people were saying that the quality of the knob, like knobs coming off of it, that typical Behringer, right? I've always said this about Behringer. The thing that you have the most problems with Behringer is their build quality. Not necessarily their sound quality. It's more their build quality. Buttons sticking, buttons breaking, buttons not working, and all that. That's what aggravates people about Behringer stuff. But I've heard nothing but great reviews as far as the sound quality of their stuff. So I wouldn't imagine that their Behringer 1273s. I recommend, and you think about it, they're only $400 or $500 compared to 4,000. Why not? If you're going to get some really good sound quality from them, I would say, why not? Why not try them? I think those 1276 are $699, aren't they? Might be $600 or $700. But there you get 2 preamps in one unit. Why not? So, and then do you mix and match? I mix, but not very often, because I'm not very creative as a mixer. I mix my own stuff, but as far as like mixing to do other people's, they send me tracks. No, I never tried it. I just never thought about doing it. Zion saying the reason I asked is just let me see. Let me go. We got Oglepix popping in. Okay, Oglepix, welcome. Okay. Zion saying the reason I asked is just watch the Billie Ellis doc, and all her music was recorded at home with a 103, TLN 103, and a Universal Audio Solo. Yeah, you can. You absolutely can. But Graham of the Recording Revolution has been saying this for years. You don't need. It's all about what you're doing more than it is where or how you're doing it. It's about more of what you're doing. In other words, I've already said it. People know I do stuff here in my home recording studio. And I have to rest my case on that. Yeah, Billie Eilish. He said Billie Eilish's brother records her music. He must be really good to be able to produce quality. Yeah, that's it's more about experience. It's I'll say it like this. Because Andrew Sheps is really good at mixing and he knows what he's doing. That's the reason why he's able to do it on his laptop with just plugins, because he's applying the same principles as if he was working on an actual console with real gear. He's applying the same concepts. He's just using software. That's the best way I can describe that. Let me see. Oglepix said, good evening and good day, and salute to y'all. Yeah, salute. Air Salt, Airborne. Yeah, some Babyface could steal people's girls fast, but I agree. His sound's gotten taken for granted. The R&B sounded a little soft. Jodeci came through and bust open the doors. Yeah, if you listen to, because that's Devontae, right, from Jodeci, and listen to even that first album, when they came out with Forever My Lady, the sound was so unique. It's like if Babyface did a production, you would know it's Babyface, and then you listen to other producers. Like listen to when SWVs When they came out with the first, I'm So Into You album, and then listen to Jodeci's album. You listen to Intro when Intro came out. Listen to Mary J. Blige when she first came out. Reminisce. All those albums, different producers. Even when they were producing Faith Evans, those arrangements, sounds, and all that is what made it sound like it sound. Babyface to me, it's like he started implementing when he did his own album, Tender Lover, and all that. And then I'll pay your rent, I'll buy your clothes. That song. As soon as I get home from work, but overall, it got to the point where it was, he wasn't making anything that just grabbed me anymore. The Tevin Campbell, Can We Talk? But then listen to the producers when Albie Shore did that song Goodbye. Babyface did that on a Tevin Campbell song. Can We Talk or whatever. I think that was the next album, but listen to the arrangement of like that song by Tevin Campbell called Goodbye. Albie Shore and the other producers did that song. So let me move on because I'm what do you call it? Blabbering or whatever. So you're asking me what do I think what went wrong with Shakira? Hips Don't Lie. I don't know. A lot of times when it comes to these music, the same thing with Christine Aguilera. Genie in a Bottle, and it's like I'm trying to quote what's his name from Groove Theory. He said it one time they were doing an interview with him that it's more like music is seasonal. Like 90s R&B is seasonal. 90s R&B is more of the Teddy Riley type of producer style of music being done, right? But before in the 80s, it was bands. It was Midnight Star, it was Starpoint, it was Cameo, it was Confunction, it was Atlantic Star, and bands. It was bands. In the 90s, it became groups like TLC, In Vogue, and they were, creating music like that. It's seasonal. It's no different. So people change, people, it's just music. You just don't know what people are going to like. Music is so unpredictable. Like me, I would have never thought people were going to gravitate toward Bruno Mars because Bruno Mars was trying to bring back an 80s style band, and it worked. Yeah, I mean, we seen what happened to Uptown Funk, but I think they put a twist on it. Bruno Mars is, producing a twist to old style music to give it a modern flair. I think that's what's working, but you just don't know. I just don't know. Like me, like I said, I don't listen to a lot of new music. I like older music because it has something to do with the music production arrangements and all that. So I think that's what happened with Shakira. Just the people it's the same thing with Sierra. Sierra was actually in competition with Beyonce, but people gravitated more toward Beyonce. But now Beyonce is she's getting busted for stealing other people's dance moves. Like all the single ladies, now they went back and found the original. They found the original video from the 60s of the females that did, and they're like, oh, that's where she got that from. So Beyonce better be careful. People don't like when you bite like that, Bites an old school term, right? Stealing. Um, so let's see. Let me see. Jerry Victor said, "Oh, Jerry Duplessis was one of the producers. Legend. Yeah, I've heard of him. I don't know. I've heard of his name. I don't know who all he's produced. But I've heard of him. Um, so let me see. Vigilante said Billie Eilish, bro, is a genius producer. I think someone else mixes their music. It's probably, but like I said, I don't know. I don't work with Billie. I don't know too much about Billie Eilish, but I've heard their record. I've heard a little bit about Billie Eilish. I just don't keep up with them enough to know. Says you. My YouTube alerts aren't showing me when you go live. So the best way to know when I go live, I'll put like this. I'm usually going live usually between 7 or 8 p.m. on Sundays. And that's going to be Central Standard Time for United States. So if you're on Central Standard Time, it will be usually 7 o'clock. So that way, just if you're not getting alert, just make a note of it. I usually go live about that time. So that way you know. Vigilante said, I heard the same thing about the 369, but again, knobs can be replaced. Yeah, exactly. I think that's the only thing with Behringer stuff was that even though people would complain about Behringer, I don't have no problem with Behringer stuff, but that was the thing. Is like the knobs will be cheap, but the stuff is being made in China at the lowest. They're using lower Chinese quality parts. So that's what's frustrating about Behringer stuff. But as far as the quality, I've never really had too much problems with their sound quality. So let me see. Maine says 70s had some of the best R&B and soft rock music ever recorded, and that's opinionated because I'm an 80s and 90s person. And when it comes to 70s, I might listen to like Ambrosia, like "Make a Wish, Baby." I can't remember all the words. Or I'm definitely going to listen to Earth, Wind, and Fire, especially "That's the Way of the World." I'll listen to some Stevie Wonder. There is Superstition. I'll listen to that, but for the most part, I'm listening to 80s. I'll listen to like 80s Gap Band stuff. I'm going to listen to 80s. I like the 80s better. I did listen to some Doobie Brothers from the 70s because there's going to be some people that think the 60s are the best, like even the Motown era. I've listened to Smokey Robinson and the Miracles and listened to Martha and the Vandellas, and they're listening to the Four Tops and the Temptation. They think the 60s is generational, is what I'm saying. So it's more dependent on like for me, the 90s is the 80s and 90s is my favorite era. So that's just me. I like listening to 90s R&B groups as an example the most. I even in the when it comes to salsa on the Puerto Rican side, I listen to Frankie Ruiz all the time. And most of his prime stuff was 90s. I listened to now 80s, yeah, Michael Jackson, Thriller, stuff like that. That's 80s though. I did like Off the Wall. That was 70, I guess 78, 79, Off the Wall. But so it's really dependent. I do like some 70s, but I don't think it was the best era to me. Okay, let me move on. Rob says analog recording is still the only way to get that true warm reproduction of artists, vocals, instruments, etc. Digital has destroyed real production and natural sound of music. Yeah, and that, like I said, that's all opinion. It depends on everything has an advantage on how it's used. But like I said, that's everything. Everyone has, what they like. Victor says, do I have any tips for a good vocal mix? For me, like for example, let's say I'm running through the console. I like running my vocals through I have a pair of Rain parametric EQs to shape the EQ. And then I also like to use my KT, these are LA style type compressors. And that's usually, to me, that combination gets the vocals to come out in the mix more, especially if I'm depending on how much I'm, pulling up here, but you can hear the vocals pretty distinctively through that chain. Just so I can shape how I want the vocals to sound. So that would be my tip. But like I said, if you have a really good preamp, you don't have to have Avalons like mine, but if you got a really nice, good sounding preamp to get a good vocal in the front end when you initially record your vocals, that's half the battle. That's actually 70% of the battle of getting a good vocal with a good preamp, maybe a good vocal chain initially when you're going to record your vocals. That way you don't have to work hard when it's time to mix. I probably would, if that helped. So Maddie says, I think music taste developed about 10 years old and then tapped out about 30. So you have about 20 years of favorites. Like I said, it just, and it really depends on the artist, because I like certain songs that like certain songs that Bruno Mars may do that. Like a lot of people like Adele. I'm not big on Adele at all. A lot of people like Alicia Keys. I'm not really big on Alicia Keys. I'm not really impressed with a lot of Alicia Keys music. I'm just not. Never really liked Keisha Cole's stuff. Just didn't. So it really depends. Everyone has their favorite artist that they like, and there are people that they don't like, and it also depends on the era. Some people really like the Beatles. I never listened to the Beatles. I never listened to the Beatles. So never had an interest in listening to the Beatles. But there are a lot of people that like the Beatles. So let me see. So Matt says some people may be 15 to 25 years old. Yeah. It's all generational. So it depends on your generation and your genre of music. Most older people are going to like the older stuff. They grew up in that era. So just like people are, anyhow, let me move on. Victor says the music was great before the 2000s, but the audio quality in general was not good, at least from what I remember. I would say part of that is because people aren't going through. It's a lot of factors to that. Like, you got a lot of people that are just buying software and plugins and an audio interface, and they're just some whatever, and they're just putting stuff together, and then they're just uploading it to like Reverb or SoundCloud or whatever, Reverb Nation, SoundCloud. They're just uploading it and not realizing that if it was done in a commercial studio, done a certain way, it's always going to sound a lot more professional. But it's like you don't know what you don't know. And a lot of people don't know what it takes to make a good recording. So they think it's just buying stuff, throwing stuff together, and that's all you need to do. And that's the reason why that's the biggest complaint. You can't just now if you want to sound good, because sometimes you're like, that high end, them hi-hats, man, that thing is killing my ears with the just the semblance. Because they don't know to use a de-esser and all that. They just, and then their rooms aren't treated, or whatever the case may be. The monitors aren't set right, the studio monitors, or they did on headphones or whatever. They just, and they put all that in their mind. It sounds good, and then you go back and listen to it, like to someone to a professional recording, and then you can tell it's like it sounds amateurish, and that's what we're dealing with. So let's see. Rob says 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s were the best 40 years of music, and I would never be reproduced again. I'm like I said, I'm 80s and 90s with some 70s in there. So that's the era of music that I listen to. So I kind of agree a little bit. I'm not really big. Anything after 2000, it's just going to be hit or miss for me. It really is. It's just going to be hit or miss. Certain songs for certain artists, anything past 2000, just maybe that I might like that a modern song here or there. But the era of as a decade, some 70s, definitely 80s and 90s to me. I think it started fading out the end of 90s, but the heart of it is definitely probably 75 to 95. 1975 to 1995 is probably the heart of what I like. So he said Marilyn McCool and the Fifth Dimension got some of the best vocals and mix ever recorded. That's opinionated. I would say because there are a lot of artists that went to top end studios that got great vocal recordings. So that's opinion. But you're saying, let's see, it wasn't perfect, and music wasn't meant to be perfect sounding. So like I said, it's all just it just depends on the genre of music. Victor says music was clean sounding but lacked bottom end. Today we have much bottom end, like Nicki Minaj, right? But yeah, because they couldn't do, what was the low end sound? What was the biggest low end sound of music from the 70s? A 4-string Fender bass, right? A P bass. So a 4-end, a P bass 4-end, P bass was your low end. Kicks, even the kick drum didn't have a lot of hard end thump. They say that if they try to mix music where you had this really super aggressive bottom end, and you remember back then people were still playing vinyls. You put it on there, it would make the needle, real loud. The needle would want to jump off the record. Speakers didn't even have, people weren't even rocking subwoofers in the 70s. It was just mainly, your regular 12-inch woofer, 5.5-inch mid, and 3-inch tweeter. That was your common speaker. Now, dang near everything has a sub with all that, anything below 100 hertz, 60 hertz, 40 hertz, all that low end, especially on EDM music, hip hop music, or whatever, all that, the 808s, and 909s and all that low end and that low end sound, low end tones from synth sounds and all that. So now everything's super aggressive on the low end. We even hear it in movie sound, with the subs, and even watching a movie, and they got the subs in the corner and all that low end energy. That's just what people want now. They don't want just the low end from someone playing on just a 4-string bass on a track anymore. They want that super big bottom sound. So Matthew said there's definitely a learning curve when learning to record at home. Yeah, it's put it like this. You can record for 25 years and not know to put a really nice bus compressor to give it the glue. A lot of people know, oh, that's the ingredient. That's part of the ingredient to the sound is a really nice bus compressor. People can record for years and not know to do that. Like, oh, that's what's giving it an industry sound is a good bus compressor. I'll throw that one out there. So Matthew says some big studios can screw it up also, though. Yeah, like I said, I said this before. A person can have $1 million and go build them a studio. Doesn't mean they know what they were doing. I've seen people buy a super top of the line gear and they don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to get a good recording. So Victor said, I love the 80s also, but it's not logical to say that that's the best music era. Example, our cars better from the 80s. Well, once again, it's all about what you like. It really is. So you may not like the 80s because you just didn't like any of the music from those artists. I like the 80s. I like for example, Gap Band. I like that song Kier, Mr. Kier. I like Aha, Take on Me. That's 80s. I like that song. That's me. Hungry Like the Wolf. You know, I can't Something About You, Level 42. That's 80s. You may not like that song. I like that song by Level. I like the song by Level 42 called Something About You. There's something about you, baby. I like, so it's really what you like. So Maine says, what preamp and compressor would you recommend for home recording? Well, there's so many choices. I would recommend, if I was, let's see, depends on your budget. Let's say you got about $1,300, right? And you want to get a good compressor and a good preamp that's affordable. I would look at the Tone Beast. You can probably find one of them for $4.99 or whatever, a Tone Beast. And like one of the Lin 76 that I got in the rack over here, compressor. That would make a really good vocal chain. And you would get, I would say 80% of your vocals will come out really, really good. Or using it for anything, instruments or whatever, it will come out really, really good. It's using those two. I would recommend starting with that. Yeah, of course, saying the boom didn't come until 808. Because 88 was really popular for hip hop, rap music. So let me see. Rob says Bernard from Chick, Lewis from the Lewis from the brother Lewis Johnson, for the brothers Johnson was the best. Because you think about Lewis Johnson's bass slapping. I know everyone talk about Marcus Miller when it comes to slapping, but Lewis Johnson's slapping is off the chain. And I know we got, Jocko Pasteris, and there is Victor Wooten, Victor Wooten is just on another level when it comes to bass. Stanley Clark, and so forth. But Lewis Johnson, I don't know how his slapping, and then you got Bernard. You know, I want your love. I need to think your love. Bernard, yeah. When it comes to those bass players, but the thing is, what was crazy about Louis Johnson, Bernard, and Bernard Edwards, and all those type of bass players, rest in peace, because they passed away. Is not only could they slap and play, they knew how to stay in the pocket. It's music was more pocket from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. I'm not, that's why I want to get back, and that's why I really want to talk about music production series. I really want to talk about that, make videos on that, because it's, from what I'm hearing today, that's what's lacking in music. It's like people are just throwing stuff together. What I'm hearing today, compared to going back to that era where people actually compose and song arrange and structure music. So let me see this. I like 80s music also. Yeah, to me, I like it. Just me. I'm a big 80s person. So also Rob said the big 80s don't get no better than, for sure. To me, some people don't, like I said, it's all about what you like. Some people like the 60s. Some people think music doesn't sound better. Ooh, baby love, my baby love. That's 60s, right? Some people like the 70s. That's the way, Hearts of Fire. Some people love that, which I do. I like that. But I like it all, really, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. My favorite is 75 to 95. But I can appreciate some good 60s musics too. But 80s is my favorite. It's just what it is. It's just my favorite. And I think it's because I'm a little biased because I'm a keyboard player. And 80s a lot of synthesized sounds were really being implemented in a lot of music in the 80s. So that's probably why. So let me see. Victor says 120,000 songs are released daily on Spotify. There has to be great music in there. And the problem with that, if 120,000 songs being released daily on Spotify, to me, that's a problem. Because you got thousands of artists that you're not gonna, this is what made the old system work. You knew the way they would market to put out a Michael Jackson album, they had a release date. All these artists had release dates by record labels. So they had release dates. So, and they can release it and get it marketed where you can get the attention. Janet Jackson, for example, her Rhythm Nation's coming out. Going to be released September 1990 or whatever. Or Vanessa Williams, The Right Stuff is going to be released June 15th, 1988 or whatever. You knew. So that way, when you went to the record stores, they already had Boys to Men album coming out, will be hitting the shelves of stores September 1989 or whatever. You knew. So that way, when you come, you can go to the music store when it got released. You can listen to it, buy it, and all that. That's how you got the attention. And then on top of that, they would release music videos to it. So now you can watch it on VH1, BET, MTV. That's marketing. 120,000 songs coming out daily. I have no idea who's releasing what. I don't know if one of y'all could release a song. I wouldn't know with that many songs being released. I wouldn't know where to go to look for that unless I'm following you unless I'm specifically following you on your SoundCloud or your Reverb Nation or your, whatever you're on, unless I'm a follower and I get a notice. Other than that, it's just too much. It's way oversaturated. I look at it now, it's like when people used on Black Fridays where they would have the doors closed. The doors were the gatekeepers, and they would only let a few people in. But now they let everyone in. It's like everyone's bombarding the doors. And now it's like you don't know who's. It's almost like it's out of control. But that's just my opinion. Let me see. George 80s kicked off the synth era. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, which made sounds more interesting than just always just a chord or flange sound from a pedal of a guitar. Now you get all these unique, interesting synth sounds in the music. So that, yeah. But let me see. Vigilante says the Comp 3A Junior from Golden Age Project is a great comp under 400 as well. That's another option. Let's see. You see Rocco Prestia from Tower Power, awesome bass player. Rest in yeah. There was a guy named Larry. He's playing this band called The Business that was actually singing lead for Tower Power for a minute. I don't know if he still does it. And then, of course, Maine said Larry Graham started the slap. Yep. And everyone knows the reason why Larry Graham started the slap, because they didn't have a bass player. They didn't have a drummer. So he had to come up with some way to create a rhythm section. So he would slap to emulate the kick drum, and then he would, pluck on the string to emulate the snare. So that's how the slap was born. Vigilante said, I'm working on an 80s album. Okay, that's cool. That I like 80s. So Dia said, what are my favorite 80s albums? Oh, too many. Definitely was a Starpoint fan. Rest in peace. For Starpoint when well, I can't remember. But anyhow, Starpoint, that album, that group, I'm drawing a blank on Object of My Desire. I definitely liked Confunction. Especially Cameo, some of the Earth, Wind and Fire albums that was coming out. It's some of the, definitely like when Stevie Wonder put out when he put out Ribbon in the Sky, and let me see, I'm trying to think, because there's so many. The Gap Band, You Dropped the Bomb on Me, Stephanie Mills, the list is long. So let's see, George G said the bass player Doug Wimbish is the bass player that really made us love bass. Many other, I'm not familiar with Doug Wimbish, so you might have to give me a little bit more on. I'm not familiar with Doug. Who was Doug playing for? Vigilante said most plugins are sounding the same, which is why I don't buy as. Yeah. I haven't bought a lot. I haven't bought plugins in a long time. To me, they're just, anyhow. I like plugins. I just haven't bought any lately. I do use IK multimedia plugins and acoustic audio plugins, but so let me move on. Let me see. Yeah, that's pretty. Yeah, I would say that's a good example. Too much music. Yeah, I would say Vigilante said the issue for the new artist, how does one stand out in the sea of music? In other words, it's almost like, and this is such a tragic way, but it's such a tragic example. If someone is on a cruise ship and they fall overboard, that's usually a wrap for that person. Because the ocean, I don't know if people have ever been on the ocean. Ocean is so ridiculously huge A lot of people don't know that by the time a cruise ship realized that a passenger has fell overboard, they're already a mile to 2 miles way up, and then they have to do a U-turn, and then because they got to do they can't really go back. It's hard to pinpoint to backtrack, and a lot of people, especially if a person can't swim, the ocean. I don't know y'all, but the ocean is ridiculously deep, and the pressure level is ridiculous. So if a person dies, they're usually lost, because for a cruise liner, because they're so huge, cruise ships are so huge, it's like trying to find a needle in a haystack. It's just they're so microscopic to a ship, they can hardly ever spot them. So you got, because a person fall overboard, most of the time they don't have a life vest. It's just, and then the ocean is ridiculously cold. So, and that's my comparison to, I would use that comparison to everyone trying to stand out, trying to be seen. The only way you can do it today is got to be real creative. Hopefully that you may have a good following on your YouTube, Twitch channel, whatever, and you got this large following. And I tell people today, if you're going to be an artist, build you a following and then cater to your followers and let the followers do the word of mouth. They help them. That's the only way you're going to really be seen. But if you're just going to make some music and upload to Reverb Nation, good luck. If you're going to just make some music, upload it to SoundCloud, good luck. It's going to get lost. It's like getting lost in the ocean, because it's hundreds of thousands to millions of people uploading their music, and it just, so Born Shamar said, "Do I do?" I'll tell the Stevie Wonder, yeah. Do I do? I wish. Someone your love. I'm trying to think of all those, because Stevie Wonder got a lot of songs. Doom, 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 doom. Overjoy. I've been building my castle of love. So yeah. So let me see. Matthew has never been more studio gear available, yet no one is actually making money from it. Because, well, I think with the music industry, it became it's like people love music, but they don't love it enough. And I'm not talking about people that are into making music and want to do music record. I'm just talking about your average listener. It's not. It's like making a CD. People just don't feel that your music's worth buying. They're like, why would I need to buy it? I should just be able to just download it or access it. And I'm like, that's really a lot of the internet was a great thing for exposure, but it was also a two-edged sword where it kind of killed, because now it's like, why do I need to buy? Why would I need to go buy it? I can just go see if it's on YouTube or whatever. So yeah, it's I don't know. The music industry, we're all still trying to figure out about the music industry. Oh yeah, he said Marina's Trench is 7 miles deep. Yep, it's the ocean is huge. And you think the Titanic's only 2 miles down, and no one can actually successfully, without the right sub or whatever, no one can even get to the Titanic. And that, so I can't even imagine going all the way down to Marianas Trench. I mean, the pressure levels, the average human can only go down 200 to 300 feet before you kills you. That's only 200 to 300 feet. Imagine trying to go down a mile down. People was talking about that Ocean Gate Mercible that it imploded. Even if it didn't implode, and let's say it broke open, the pressure level of the ocean that deep would have killed them instantly anyway. No human can survive that pressure that deep. They're in a sea. Most whales can't even dive that deep. But let me see. Victor said most people on this chat are probably older, but as electronic music producer myself, I can say without a doubt you need plugins to sound modern. That's the reality. Once again, it depends. It just depends what you're trying to do. So let's see. George says, who didn't he play for? I just learned the Doug Wimbish 2 years ago on Juneteenth Connect. His diary goes back to, okay, I'll look him up. I had to look him up. You can say he was a hip hop's bass player. Okay. I just have to look him up. I just never heard of him. And then Vigilante says some indie artists can still set physical media, but all those our artists took a while to get a following. It takes time. Yeah, it's just you just don't know. It's because the biggest advantage for most artists is how much exposure can you get. It's like that was the key thing to record labels and their artists was to maximize the exposure. Because the more people see and hear these artists, then the more they are aware of them, which means people can learn about them, follow them, listen to them, and that was the key. It's the reason why we know about Michael Jackson and Janet Jackson and the Jacksons and so forth, or any artist or whatever the case, Prince, Madonna or whatever, Paula Abdul, was if you can maximize your exposure to get people to see you, then you're our head of the game. So so I'm gonna chime in on a couple more chats, and then I'm gonna probably wrap it up. Says back in the 80s, you had about 3 ways to listen to music: radio, then you had your home stereo, then seeing live. That was about it. Had everyone had those 3, or you forgot about music video, because you had the radio, really, and music video, because the music video, or you can go to the record stores, and the record store would always have posters and promotional things of artists, and you could listen to these artists in case you didn't see them on the radio, you didn't hear them on the radio, or didn't see them on music video. You could see them in the record stores, listen to them, and so forth. And other ways is sometimes people just have word of mouth. Sometimes somebody might be playing some music. Who's that? Oh, that's such and such. Oh man, that sounds good. And they'll go to the record store and find an artist. But with the internet, it is hit or miss with the internet today. So, yep. It's not yet the internet. The internet. Oh, Seven Sun says you need plugins to sound modern. I highly disagree. Plugins are emulating hardware. The ones I bought, hardware I use. Yeah. So, like I said, when it comes to modern, it's dependent on what you're doing. It really is. So oh, you didn't have to erase your message. So music, you didn't have to take it back, but okay. Oh yes, in a way, music producers come up with some interesting ways of making music, and any of those techniques useful in urban music. That's the beauty of technology. You're not limited to see bands at one point were limited to the amount of sounds they can make, but now it is unlimited to what you can do and create. The thing is, we're just not making music. We're just not making money at it like we used to. That's why the music industry is kind of like, we don't know where it holds. Um, so Max says, "Yep, now it's Tour and Spotify, YouTube." It's just unpredictable. Let me see what else we got. A few more. Electronic music has taken over the world for a reason. It's fresh and new. Once again, that's because like me, I listen to 70s, 80s, and 90s. I do listen to K-pop. I do like K-pop. I also like some of the Indian popular music well, but I don't listen to too many American artists today. I just don't. You know, waiting for them to, you know. But anyhow, also Dia said that's why I asked about production video from you. How to use these creative tools in a way that sounds good to. Like I said, that's gonna happen. That's gonna happen. That's my goal for it. That's why I was saying I made that video about what I'm planning on doing this year. Is I'm going to finish up my little audio engineering series, then I'm going to start talking about music production and how keyboard and all that. I'm going to do all that. So, oh yeah, Golf Twitter says every genre has its gems. Yeah, it's all about what you like. In the end, that's all it really is. Someone asked me, "Do I speak Korean?" No, I do not. But most of the K-pop, they're singing in English, believe it or not. So you can understand them because they're singing in English. So but I definitely like oh, Quablo says Pro Tools is not the industry standard. Yeah. Bolo the producer just did a video on that. So if y'all want to check out Bolo the producer, he talks about that. I don't need to make a video because he's already made one, and I agree with him on it. So Evo Marvero says, any suggestions on a solid overall mastering chain as far as hardware, compressor, EQ, and so on and so forth? If you got hardware and you know what you're doing, the Manley passive EQ, the Shadow Hills mastering, compressor, what else? There's a lot. Because mastering really deals with how you're going to even out peaks and volumes and get the levels right. It's kind of like using the right how can I explain mastering? I really need to talk about mastering, but it's really how they're going to use compressors, limiters, and EQs for the most part in mastering. I have to think about that when I do my next video. So let me think about that because I got more. Everyone's popping in more chats. It says, "Have I ever listened to any songs that were not in key or off key?" Yeah, and they were blatantly obvious. I'm like, why would y'all record that and that's off key? I sure have. What do you think about? I don't know who Calvin Jarvis is, so I have no opinion. I don't know who that is. believe it or not, there are some Princes out there you just don't know about them. You know, because Prince um was now Prince was, I mean, yeah, because Prince was a small person. Prince was a small guy. Um, but believe it or not, I was not a very huge Prince fan. I thought he was a good artist. Um, but everything that I know about Prince, I was just never a Prince fan. How Prince was, but a lot of people don't really know. You got to really watch a lot of documentaries on Prince to, but that's just me. Um, yeah, I don't know who Calvin Harris is. So if someone put Jars, I don't know who Calvin Harris is. So let me see. Believe it or not, and if you listen to the early 80s music, 70s, there was no auto-tune, there was no Melodyne. But even then, a lot of those artists just weren't good singers either. So it really it some artists were niche. Like, for example, Madonna's a very mediocre singer, but the music production behind her really made her shine. You know, that's another topic within itself. But yeah, I've heard, like, for example, I've listened to Keisha Cole, and Keisha Cole, even Mary J. Blige can be pitchy. It is what it is. I can hear it. So so yeah. Let me see. But yeah, I have artists. I just can't. To make a long story short, I have heard artists that didn't sing in key. So George said, I'm just echoing what a famous person in music said. This person said that DAWs and VSTs ruin music. He said, too many people in music that do not belong. I have to agree. Well, and I'll say this, and I've talked about this before. There have been artists that they've had, and some of these are one-hit wonders that should have not been in the music industry. I'm just sorry. It's kind of like to me, and I might get some hate on this. I just don't like that song. I walk 500 miles and I 100 more. To me, no. I just no. I thought that was a horrible song. I'm gonna tell you another song that but sometimes some people just, it's almost like certain songs that get out there and people just like it. I look at my hand, I'm like, I don't know why people like that song. Like that, I'm gonna tell you, and it's dumb. Random Gundam style. That's just, whatever you say, Gangnam style. It just no, it's song is dumb. I'm gonna tell you another song that I just don't like, and that's that Beyonce's Texas Hold'em. I don't like it. And I'm not saying that sometimes it's not that the art don't be out there. Sometimes some songs just don't need to be, but that's just me. So and I don't think it, but to me, honestly, it has nothing with DAWs and VSTs. That didn't ruin music. Because those are just tools. So if it wasn't for DAWs, 90% of everyone here wouldn't be able to do what they're doing. Because what options do you have besides a DAW? tape machine or hard disk recorder. You can't edit tape like you can in a DAW. So he's blaming the wrong tools. He really is. VST allowed you to have access to gear that the average person wouldn't be allowed, otherwise wouldn't have access to. That's all that is. Those are just tools. It's not the tool, it's the people, the artists that shouldn't be in the music. It has nothing to do with the tools. So let me see. Yeah, I would say, would I use those Clark Technique pool text to yes, I would. I sure would. Bonus my pause, Mark, trying to hang tough, but it's past my bedtime. But you started talking 70s and I perked right up. Yeah, like I said, that's my favorite era of music, 70s, 80s, 90s, mostly 80s and 90s, but I like a lot of some of the 70s, just depends on the artist. So I got a few more and I'm gonna have to wrap it up. DL's asked me, does Reason Studio have a cut itself function in a sampler like FL Studio does in the region? If your 80s overlap, they get loud and distort. How can I cut the sample? You triggered again. I don't know. I have to look at it. I have to look at that. George says there are people who are in music now who started with pirated programs and they just opened up the door to a lot of music we heard and hear today. I don't know. Well, yeah, I know what you mean by pirated programs. So I don't know. It's such a big topic, isn't it? And then Matty Two Hats says Animal Audio in the UK does mastering for about £50. They have world-class gear. I've never heard of Animal Audio, but okay, I'm not gonna disagree. I've never heard of them. Let's see. Evo says what I was thinking about was going with the Audioscape bus compressor, the SSL, the Valley Q, and a pair of 2-channel 500 share preamps for my. So that would work. I'm not gonna disagree with that. That would work. Audioscape makes good gear. So UDA Sound Records USA, UDA Sound Records USA. Welcome UDA Sound Records. Rob said, even if you didn't like Prince, you would have to respect what he did and how good he was. The best musician, hands down, to have ever lived. Once again, that's personal preference. I think Prince was a really good musician. I never said I didn't like Prince. I just said I wasn't big on Prince. I just was not a Prince. I was not a heavy Prince follower. But I don't dislike Prince, but he's not any more amazing to me than like listen to Earth, Wind and Fire as an example. That's just me. So that's just my personal opinion. Let me see. Victor says U2, in my opinion, is not great singer, but the band is effective. Yeah, it's the same thing. With or without you. Oh, well, let me stop. But yeah, YouTube is just like, if you start looking at the amount of artists and musicians out there, it's hundreds of thousands of us. So some people were successful enough to have way more exposure than others, to really showcase their talent and really build up a following, a fan base, and everything else. There are people on my channel on this channel right now, um, that are probably amazing musicians or singers that never got that Michael Jackson, Prince, Janet Jackson exposure. That's just, the music industry is, it's one of those things that it opens the doors for some people, but doesn't open the doors for everyone. Seven Sons says, "Do I use any tape emulators hardware?" Um, I do with the IK Multimedia. I don't use a lot of it, but I do sometimes. I don't really know a huge amount of difference when I do use it, but I do use it just to see what it sounds like. So let me see. Oh, so thanks. So, okay, you're welcome. So thanks for that explanation. Yeah. Yeah. Keith Sweat. If you really listen to Keith Sweat, yeah, Vigilante said even Keith Sweat wasn't that great. No, I listened to Keith Sweat, especially when he was doing a duet with Cut Close, especially when he was using Athena Cage, and he was doing um Nobody um with Keith Sweat, Nobody, and Athena Cage. He was trying to do that. Athena Cage was the way she was singing. She was singing effortlessly. He was trying to. It was like he was trying to be able to. They call it what do you call that when you try to? It's almost like they're going back and forth. And he was trying to do things that she could do naturally. He's like, you could like, no, Keith, no, because Keith Sweat was never a good singer. But the music got Keith over with. The music got Keith Sweat through. Keith Sweat had never been a good singer. Once again, Rob said my Roland D50 is still one of the best synths ever made. So I can say my Core Triton Studio is one of the best synths ever made. That's opinion. Let me see. So a golf said a $500,000 studio is now a laptop. If I so Kevin says, "How are you, Mark? I'm doing. Do you use your console as the first piece in your chain, or do you bring it last after running through your outboard gear and into your DAW?" No, it's not. It's not the first. It's the main piece in my chain. I would not go say it's the first thing. It's the main thing in the chain, because everything has to be heard and run through the console. So that's how I would best describe that. Everything's going through the console. Like with any studio setup, the console is the main. If they have a console, that is the main piece. Everything is just being routed through it. So let me see. If I could fit a 24 track 2-inch in my house, I would use Pro Tools just to record. Some people do that. Okay, so this is your mood collector. Okay. Well, that's true. That is true. Victor says people music is either good or bad. No middle ground. Yes, that's true. Either music is good or bad. But there's a but there. There's a but. Some people think that some music is bad, may not be bad to them. Like some people like Beyonce's Texas Hold'em. This ain't Texas. Ain't no Hold'em. Lay your cars down, 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 down. It's corny to me. That's just me. I like when Beyonce made Love on Top. That's a good song, but that's just me. Some people may not love it, so it's also subjective. But that and I walk 500 million miles and I walk another million. I don't like that song. I think the song is dumb to me. But some people like that song. They really like that song. I don't like it. So because I don't like it, it's bad to me. But it doesn't mean it's a bit. So that's that's just opinion. As Deal said, Prince made some good music back in the day, but I wasn't a fan of the leather pants. And we remember Prince was rebellious. If you got to watch you have to watch a lot of documentaries. I watched a lot of documentaries on Prince. A lot of documentaries. Prince was a character. And Prince could get under your skin. Believe it or not. Amazing guitar player, amazing musician. But I watched a lot of what people talked about Prince and how, so I'm not really big on Prince. So that's a good way to put it. Whitney Houston was the best female vocalist, in my opinion, ever. And John Cicada was the best male vocalist to me. And see, once again, that's always, it's no different than if I would say, I think Luther Vandross was the best ballad singer ever. Some people may not like Luther Vandross. I think he was one of the best ballad singers ever. And I think Whitney Houston was an amazing singer. Do I think she's the best singer? It really depends, because I like Athena Case from Cut Close. I like Faith Evans. I like a lot. So it really depends. It really, really, really does depend. So but Whitney Houston was an amazing singer because her production, Whitney was smart, especially when she came out with the Bodyguard soundtrack. She was really, really smart to put a line of really good producers to come out with, because some of her best songs was like I Want to Run to You, I Have Nothing, and so forth. And even that, before the album, before she came out, where Wherever You Are From Me, Destiny, I'm Your Baby Tonight. That's that album. I love that. So Whitney Houston, she had some really good, but I think where she messed up was she fell into, I'm gonna have to sit there and I hate to say it. She became victim of drugs. And then on top of that, it didn't help that Bobby Brown got hooked on drugs when they got together. And the drugs is, because she was on drugs when they did the autopsy. She drugged and drowned, still on drugs when she drowned in the tub. It's such a tragic, when you see people ruin their lives like that with the drugs and all that, as amazing as they are. Same thing with Prince. Prince was on painkillers and then, the opioids and all that. And, same thing when, it's like with Michael Jackson's tragedy and all these, a lot of these artists' tragedies, could have been prevented. It's just, So, oh yes, I mean, a lot of the world's greatest composers died. The music industry is the music industry by itself is just it's like getting into a lion's cage. It is a no holds bar. There's a dark side to it. I mean, we see that with P. Diddy right now and R. Kelly. There's a super dark side to the music industry that sucks people up. It's almost like the tragedy, like the Jonestown event. All those people got suckered into going to Guyana, and then the tragedy ended up being forced to, with injected with cyanide or making them to drink cyanide Kool-Aid, because because the leader, Jim Jones, was a piece of crap that was doing scandals, you know, and he got busted for it. He knew he was in trouble when that congressman came down. And he knew he was in trouble. So, that's we're just going to do we're going to do we're just going to rebel and kill ourselves. Now, people didn't want to kill themselves. You kill yourself. I'm not killing myself because you got caught. Jim Jones was high on drugs, but, because it was such a cult. But anyhow, I ain't got into the Jim Jones things. But y'all need to watch the Jim Jones if y'all know about the Jonestown thing massacre. That's tragic. But yeah, Bone Shamir said call and response. It's like when Keith Sweat's trying to do that call and response to the way Athena Cage was singing "Nobody." He like nobody. You could hear he was straining and she doing all these runs and stuff. He can't do that. Keith Sweat is not a good singer. He's never been a good singer. The music got him over. So some guy music said Bob D made it. He also talks about selling his soul. It's because you get into the music, selling your soul. It's the dark side. You gotta walk. You gotta be careful. So, Keith Sweat had good music though. He wasn't the strongest vocalist, and that got exposed when LSG. Yeah, because you put Keith Sweat, and now he's singing around Gerald Levert and Johnny Gill. It was blatant, but the thing is, the music that Keith Sweat was doing, because he had producers like Teddy Riley. Teddy Riley's a genius when it comes to coming up with musical arrangements. So that's when it's the same thing with Paula Abdul. Paula Abdul is not a great singer, but her music arrangements that's what got Paula Abdul over on her, straight up now. Tell me what you doing, love. Forever. Oh. That album. That's the music got Paula Abdul over. But when she tried to do that rush, that it's like, no, Paula. Keith Sweat was one of my first CDs in the 80s. Yeah, along with Guy. Guy came out in the 80s. Keith Sweat, Make It Last Forever. Artists like that was coming out. Levert, Just Coolin', all that was coming out. Yeah. And then let me see. George said, yeah, wow, that album sounded sick. Yeah. See. I had never tried to mix music for other people. I probably could, but I never had a desire to do that because I really would like people to learn how to mix their own music. That's one of the purposes of this channel, is to help people learn, but I just never considered doing it. Victor says Vanessa Williams, also amazing singer that never got much. She had an amazing comeback because of that scandal from the new magazines and the new pictures of Penthouse when she became Miss America. But I think sometimes some artists are really good. It's like with Shanice Wilson. Some artists are really good singers, but they don't team up with the right producers and musicians and to create songs that grab people. A lot of the songs that Vanessa was doing was okay, but it wasn't really grabbing people. It's the same thing with Chucky Booker when he was doing, Why You Wanna Play Your Games on Me? That song, Why You Games by Chucky Booker. It's the same thing with Joe. When Joe came out, I'm in Love by the artist named Joe. Did of course, that song, Baby. I can't remember all the things that a man won't do. But a lot of it has to do with music grabbing and captivating people. Music's a funny thing because sometimes we can create music and we think that people are going to love it and they don't like it. And then sometimes we'll make music. It's like when Freddie Jackson came out, he did all the songs in the album and then they needed one more for a filler. And they wrote Rock With You in like 10, 15 minutes. Rock Me Tonight. That ended up being his number one hit. The same thing that happened with that happened to Bobby Caldwell with What You Want to Do for Love. They'd already had the album done, but he needed one more. So they just threw What You Want to Do for Love together just to put it on the album. End up being his number one best all-time seller, What You Want to Do for Love. And he had no idea that song was going to do what it did. And he just needed an album filler. And sometimes the album fillers be the best songs. You just don't know what people are going to like. So let me read for you more. Let's see. And like I said, you saying Born Smith said, been singing all my life, and my family used to be like. So, and like I said, you could be another, like I said, there's people on here that they're probably amazing artists and musicians that watching the channel, but the exposure, the music industry, what worked in the old way is they give you the record deal. They would help you get on the radio. They would help you, you would get the video. You can get the exposure. You can get the record stores. I mean, it worked. But now, the new system of just being able to just make your music and getting some software and then uploading to SoundCloud, because millions of people are doing that, it's not working. So the people just can't get the exposure that they need. So, and then the golf Twitter says a console is dedication and maintenance. They can be. This console is a mid-level console. It's not like an SSL or a Neve, a big old those humongous consoles that require to stay on. So you can turn this console on and off. But if you have the patience to maintenance a console and you want that sonic sound, that quality sound that consoles put out, like Neves, SSLs, APIs, Helios, MCI consoles, they're worth it. They're well worth it. But some people just don't want to deal with the maintenance, the weight. They are heavy, they're and so forth. So if you don't want to deal with that, of course, I would just use your mixer in your DAW. So, all right. Oh wow, I didn't know it was that. Okay. People have been. Okay, so your flock of seagulls. You just said Records is asking, is the Allen heat power hungry or up to par with today's man? It's no, not even. It runs off 110, off the wall. Barely uses. It's quiet. You can't even hear that power supply. Normally, time I would have a power supply in the other room, but it's quiet. You can't even hear that power supply. Pull no more watts than like a hairdryer. Yeah, I got that I actually got that when he come out in the rain. Winnie Moulton never got the exposure like Whitney Houston did. But I definitely have heard of Winnie Moulton for sure. I got that come out in the rain. Come on out in the I got that. Rick James is jacking his EPROMs is crazy. Yeah, but the problem with Rick James, what killed him was the drugs. Drugs is a career killer. So, do I think there's merit in working at a studio to make music better as an artist? Not really. Unless you just don't have the resources, the know-how, to want to do it at home, then by all means, then I would say yes, seek a recording studio. Yes, seek a recording studio, but you do not need to be in a commercial studio to make better music. And I'll leave it at that. Your Flock of Seagulls. And then what's that one? Western Town of Western Girls. Western Girls. I can't remember the name of that group. So okay, we got some more. Let me see a few more. Oh, bullshit! I can't listen to Luther the same, knowing what I know. How? Yeah, here's the thing, because they just came out with a special about Luther, but after I found out about the whole In Vogue, incident and all that, I kind of lost some respect for Luther. So it's the same thing that found out the way Tony had did some of their members in Tony and Ralph Sadiq and all that, and then find out, how the whole thing didn't work out, how they did Don from In Vogue on that. I just, found out sometimes some of these artists, it's a little bit like I lost a little bit of respect for even Maurice White, how they did the Emotions with Earth, Wind, and Fire, because they're the ones singing Boogie Wonderland and some background stuff for Earth, Wind, and Fire, and found out how they didn't pay them or pay them right. Just you'd be amazed when you don't know the behind the scenes of some of these people that you admire to realize, it's the same thing. I was featuring my cousin's book with Don Silver from the Funk. Kind of find out Charlie Wilson didn't treat my cousin right. They dated. He didn't treat my cousin right at all. I kind of lost a lot of respect for Charlie Wilson, even though the bad part was that he was on drugs real bad. And I didn't know the whole story. She started, till she put in the book. And I talked to my cousin on that. I'm like, oh, I didn't know Charlie was like that. Yeah. She said Charlie Wilson was bad. But as an artist, because he was on drugs real bad. Sometimes when you're on drugs real bad, you're not in your right mind. Same thing with Rick James. Rick James was on drugs real bad. Drugs was killing a lot. Same thing with Whitney Houston. Whitney Houston wasn't in her right mind when she got bad on cocaine and drugs. So let me see. But amazing, yes, she was an amazing singer. She was one of the top 3. Yes, she definitely was up there. Amazing vocalist. It's just that it was the drugs. Oh yeah, Victor said, remember, we're only talking about us, Mark. Yeah, and because we're still not the main community out there, But Deal said, how do we as the producer community work together to make music and make money? What we're going to have to do, in my opinion, is we're just going to have to influence people to start buying your music, even if it's just spending 99 cents to buy your single. This Bojangles teacup that I got from Bojangles on some iced tea, probably $3-4, is about 3 or 4 songs. Do I still buy people's music? Yes, because I believe in that thing. But instead of buying the music where it's going through to the label to pay the artist, I think music should be paid directly to. I think the music should be paid directly to the artists and producers, and not to the label, because they were only paying the artists 12% of the, 10-12% of the profits. And it's the artists doing all the work. They're doing that. They're finding the producers. It's the musicians. It's the producers. The artists, like, I'm paying you 80% and you're doing nothing because you're saying it's because of the name, you own the name of the label, but you're not doing the work. It's kind of like how the work industry is today. The CEOs of companies make millions of dollars while everyone else only gets $15 an hour, $14 an hour. But everyone else is doing all the work, but the CEOs get $1 million in bonuses. What's wrong with that picture? So let me see. Victor said, in the end, we will never know who's the best because the world is so big. Yeah, it's so many. It's like I like the reason why I would never say there's just one best or one best of anything, because there's so much variety. It's like with my keyboards. I got 20 something synthesizers. They all got their pros. It's the same thing. There's so many artists. I like a lot of artists. I like DeBarge. I like Confunction. I like, I like a lot of artists. Oh yeah, they go say cults. Yeah, and you believe it or not, people get suckered into cults. It's just recognizing how to get a cult. You got to recognize that you're in a cult. Anytime someone's controlling what you're doing and telling you what you can and can't do, and you only can listen to them, and they're the ones that are the only one that knows, you're in a cult. If they sit there to say I'm God, you're in a cult. Because they're a man like you, or whatever, they're a woman like whatever the case. They can't make people, only God, if you're I'm a God, then create another human. They can't do it. Well, I guess you could if you have sex, but so say Clyde Davis, yeah, it's man, y'all wrote a lot of climb. And yeah, Clyde Davis he's a very dirty Clyde Davis. Everyone know about Clyde Davis. I was drinking the Kool-Aid comes in all four. Yeah. Let's see. So yeah, it's okay. We just see, not Paula. Keith Sweat. Milli Vanilli was peak 80s. Yeah, but Milli Vanilli was they also were using other artists to, those weren't Milli Vanilli actually singing, they were lip syncing. Did they refreeze Mariah Carey yet? I don't know. For her to be my age, excuse me, for her to be my age, she still looks good. Oh yeah, baby, I'm ready to get all of my love. Yeah, I love that album, especially that song "Smile for Me" by Levert. A lot of great sounding R&B records in the 80s. Yeah, like let's see, right. Shanice had a couple joints. Yeah. She got this song that I really like. Haven't I seen your face be my life? I'm trying to remember the name of the song, but it's about Shanice Willis. And haven't I seen your face be? Mm-hmm. Da, 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 da. I can't remember the but I love that song. If someone remembers what it is, just I can't remember right now. But anyhow, when it comes to music, what's the most important? Is it the mix or the mastering? I would put it like this on Quablos. When it comes to music, what's important is the song good. Out of all of that, is the artist and the talent any good? Because it's kind of like this: mixing and mastering does not matter if it's a turd. It's like washing an old broken car that don't run with no transmission. It's like a car that doesn't run, doesn't have, whatever. What's the point of washing it? It don't run. Mastering is just polishing it. It's like having a good car. Washing it and making it look good, that's the mixing portion. And then mastering is like throwing wax on it to bring out that shine. But so the most important part of it is it a good song? If it's not a good song, mixing mastering is pointless. Even though people do mix master pointless songs, it's just gonna make a pointless song sound better. That's the best way I can describe that. Sorry, bro. I was trying to say about above that I've been singing all my life, and my family was musical, and they knew Keith was whining on the mic a lot, especially compared to other top men. Yeah, I mean, it's like with any, like Stevie Wonder or Luther Vandross or any brilliant singer. You listen to Keith Sweat, it's like he can't. That dude, no. But we knew the music was getting Keith over. That's really what it boiled down to. So it said, how do I feel about using control servers to do mixing? Is it a waste of money? No, they're great. I think they're great. It's always giving you a mixing console feel without actually on a real mixer. It's an alternative. So they're a great investment if to other than just using a keyboard and mouse. Let me see. Do you agree when people say you should learn multiple DAWs in just in case a student's not using your DAW? That depends. Kevin was asking that duo. I personally think that you should learn multiple DAWs because it will help. If you have a client that comes in there and they did something in Ableton Live, at least you can navigate yourself around Ableton Live. So it does help, but it's not required. Because someone might bring in doing something in Nuendo, and I don't have Nuendo. So it just depends. Oh, Born Smart said Pep Shop Boys. Yeah, that's who made it. Western Boys, Pep Shop Boys, Western Girl. Western, just like with Human League. I'm only human, born the world today. I can't remember all the words of these songs, but yeah, Born Smart, Lucy Pearl. Yeah, the way I just didn't like the way Ralph Sadiq and all that did Lucy Pearl. Lucy Pearl was the name of the group, and they had Don from In Vogue. And they, Don was like, "Hey, I need money. We're not making. Hey, I still gotta live in a place." And he's like, "You need to, you need to go figure it out." See, I lose respect for people like that. I don't have respect for people like Ralph Sadiq anymore. When you say something like that, and it's the whole thing. The whole thing blew out with Tony. I just lost respect for Ralph Sadiq. If you learn the Tony story, and all the other musicians, they'll tell you what happened. I'm like, oh, the whole Tony was shady. Some of them guys in Tony was shady. So anyhow, but that's the music business. Oh yeah, Matthew said a lot of these celebrities turn out to be really bad. Yeah, just you'd be amazed. It's like with the whole Ellen, the DeGeneres, whatever, how I'm pronouncing it wrong. She turned out to be a fraud. They said she was nowhere near as nice as she, on her show. People sitting there. Everyone know about Ellen DeGeneres, or I call it whatever, DeGeneres or whatever. So, anyhow, I got things popping in left and right. Oh, Georgie said, he said UMG Virgin Music purchased CD Baby. So people are saying the majors are really interested in independent. I didn't know that. Okay. All right. George says 10 to 12%. That's a lot. Most artists made 5%. Well, yeah, that's because that contract would say 12% or whatever, but you remember they only made 5% because they had to pay producers, managers, road managers, lawyers. So they really wasn't making that much off, and that's just the record sales. They still had to pay back torrent support and all these other stuff that they were making the artists pay back. They was recouping so much. Our artists were always the record label, the way they were doing the artists was just shady. It's so corrupt. It's horrible. So that's my jam. Do I Know You by Shani? That's right. Yeah. Do I know you? Haven't I seen your face before? Yeah, that's my that song is so good. It's like I was playing Angie. I was playing this song, Angie. Um Love's Here. And it's the thing is, Angie, um, let me see if I play. Not Heart Donor, but I think Love's Here. So Love's Here is one of those songs, it's that album of Love's Here and or just Angie. She never got the promotion, and that album is really, really good. Um she never got the exposure that she deserved. Angie was an amazing artist. But that's the music industry. That is the music industry. So Victor said without a good mix, you can't have a good master. And I can say it, and I agree. But without a good song, it starts with a good song. A good recording of a good song by a good artist with talent. Then the mixing, that's like putting, I would say, like making a cake. A good tasting cake would be the song. Then the icing is like mixing up that cake to give it a total flavor. And then the presentation of the cake is the mastering. So it all works, but it starts with a good song. Because if it's a crappy song, I don't care how well it's mixed and mastered. But Victor's right. Without, you got to have a good mix to get a good master. Because a master, he can't master a bad mix. So Victor's right on that. Vanguard Light said a combination of all three. Let's see. Yep. Yep. Let's see. See. Oh yeah, Kevin said I also like CC Peniston. Yeah, I do. I like finally is happening to me. CC Peniston from Dayton. She's from Dayton. Like that's my hometown, Dayton, Ohio. But they end up moving to Arizona when she's a little girl. But yeah, I like CC Peniston. You got to keep on. Don't on. She had a lot of good songs too. But I like CC Peniston. I like so yeah, let's see. That's a Flying Time Creation Human League. Yep. Let's see. I just touched my Portrait CD. Yeah, I got Portrait too. Here we go. Going through the same thing. So here we go. So I appreciate it, Quablo. Said Mark is full of wisdom. Please give thank. I appreciate the thumbs up. Yeah, please. Yeah, that definitely helps. Let me see. I said, should I get a Tascam Model 12? It wouldn't hurt. Tascam makes good gear. So I think, if you can use it, yeah, for sure. Oh, Born Schmidt said, whoa, got that cassette single. Of Angie. I mean, like, the amount of music out on these cassettes is crazy. I said, Dia said, don't get a copyright strike, Mike. No, I didn't play it long enough. I didn't get to play it long enough to get copyright strike. So, there's some music because it's not out or relevant, or it's when artists like that have faded away years ago, BMI and ASCAP and CSAC don't even look for it to strike anymore, or publishing companies don't even look to strike for anymore, because it has to be something registered and all that. So you got, so I'm real careful when it comes to playing this, certain tracks. So let me see. Monster Jam. Here we go again. Yeah, here we go. I like portrait, you know. Let me see. So, oh yeah, so running a drum tracks through a multi-track tape machine is saturation is a clever trick. Yep, to get that saturation tape all together. So, all right, fam. And YouTube subscribers and all that, I gotta call it off. It's been over 2.5 hours. This is great, but I need to wrap this up. It is now 9:30. I will be back here again next week. I said I was going to be on for an hour, but these things get good. They really do. So I want to appreciate everyone for tuning in. I'll be here again next week, and we're gonna keep this going. And I hope everyone's starting off with hope everyone's starting off with a good year. I hope we have a good year. You just don't know what the year is going to bring. But once again, God willing, I'll be here next week and we can interact again. So until then, I hope everyone have a pleasant week and we'll see you next week. Thanks for tuning in and cheers to everyone.